together for an hour, 20 minutes, something that will build our identity to Jewish social justice from the beginning. This Shabbat, in Yirtzeh Hashem, we are going to read the first parasha on Sefer Dvarim that actually Moshe Rabbeinu is summarizing, is repeating the history and the mitzvot in the way he saw it and in the way he thinks it should be described. And in the end, Kadosh Baruch Hu Hashem actually says that you should include this book into the Tanakh, into the Torah, and actually it's making Sefer Dvarim the holy book. But let's go to the beginning. Let's go to the beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu, of the leader of Israel, and ask ourselves, why was he appointed? Why did Hashem select and said Moshe Rabbeinu is the leader that should take Am Yisrael, expel Am Yisrael from Egypt, will be the messenger that will accept and get the Torah from the divine and will deliver it to us, build the Mishkan? Why? Why Moshe Rabbeinu? Actually, we don't know. The Torah doesn't write exactly or precisely why did Moshe Rabbeinu began to be the leader of Israel. The Torah has all kinds of ways to say things. And therefore, Rashi, for instance, claim that actually the Torah does write, not in an explicit way, but in a very special way. I'll read it in Hebrew, and you can see the translation, the beginning of the second chapter of Shemot, Vayelech ish mi bet Levi, vayikach et bet Levi, that's his father, that got married with Bat Levi, Vatar Isha, Vateled ben, she had a son, Vatere oto ki tov hu, vatitzpenehu shlosha yerachim. Our Chazal, the Chachamim, had very sensitive ears, and they actually found that this frame, Vatere oto ki tov hu, reminds them that we have the same thing in the first chapter of Bereshit. Vayar Hashem et ha'or ki tov. So they said, according to Rashi, according to the Chachamim, that he was chosen from the beginning, not because of things that he did, not because of things that he behaved or rules that he delivered, or whatever. He was appointed because from the beginning he had special potential, and in the minute he was born, there was a lot of light. Now, this is the way that Chachamim are learning, and with their sensitive ears, are learning the Torah. But the problem is that you have to have those sensitive ears. The question is if we can find something that is more simple, is more with transparency, that everyone that is accessible, that everyone can read in the Torah, the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu was appointed to be the greatest leader of Am Yisrael. And I want to present one of the answers that are, maybe they're, you never know the reason, but I think that if we read with careful eyes, why was he appointed to be the leader, we may find the answer in a different place in this chapter. Before I'll start to answer the question, I'll ask what was his main missions. And as we know, his main missions were two. The first thing is to be the redemption leader and to expel and to lead Am Yisrael from Egypt, stop being slaves, kind of independence, and starting the big journey towards Eretz Yisrael through the desert. The second thing is The most important thing is to be the human being that will climb on Mount Sinai and will get the Torah from Ribono Shel Olam, come with it to the nation's camp, and start the tradition Moshe קיבל תורה מסיני ומסרה ליהושע. Assuming that we are right, that these are the two missions that he was appointed, and these are the main things that he had to do, let's read carefully the first stories about Moshe Rabbeinu. And I'm reading, ויהי בימים ההם, ויגדל משה, ויצא אל אחיו, וירא בסבלותם. וירא איש מצרי, he saw an Egyptian beating, מכה איש עברי מאחיו. So he saw one Egyptian that is beating one of his brothers. ויפן כה וכה, וירא כן אין איש, ויח את המצרי, ויטמנהו בחול. Yeah, and he hit him and hide him in the sand. So if we read it very carefully, we see that actually the first story about Moshe Rabbeinu, in a very individual way, in a very limited position, Moshe Rabbeinu sees that one of his brothers is in trouble, that he suffers from the fact that he is a slave, that he's being beaten by an Egyptian, and from his own motivation, he was inspired and saved the life of his brother and killed the Egyptian. And the Torah uses the words vayach, that everybody knows that this is the word that later on the Torah will use about Aseret HaMakot, the 10 punishments that the Egyptian and Paro received from Hashem. I'll come back to it in a second. The second story is ויצא ביום השני, the second day, והנה שני אנשים עברים ניצים. He sees two of his brothers that are fighting. Now, he could say, it's not my business. He could decide not to be involved. But he decided exactly like yesterday. Yesterday, he saved the life of his brother from being beaten up by the Egyptian. Today, it's an internal issue inside of the group that he belongs to, and he sees שני אנשים עברים ניצים, two of his brothers that are fighting, and he decides to get involved and to say, it's not moral, it's not ethical. ויאמר לרשע, why do you strike your fellow? למה תכה רעך? Now he could say, the offender, why not? He could say, it's not your business, and actually he says, ויאמר מי שמך לאיש שר ושופט עלינו? הלהרגני אתה אומר כאשר הרגת את המצרי? It's not your business, and don't get involved. But Moshe Rabbeinu decides to be part of the story. And actually, we see that the first two stories that we are reading about Moshe Rabbeinu are the pillars of the two main missions that Moshe Rabbeinu was appointed to do. From one hand, he saves his brother's life from the Egyptian, and it's a kind of a redemption to one person as an individual. But the most important thing there is that he did it by being inspired by a self-decision, not by an order, it's his values, commitment, and the decision that it's his business. And the second day, actually, he delivers a message. And the first message that we hear from Moshe Rabbeinu is, Lama take re'echa. Lama take re'echa is actually, like Rabbi Akiva says, the pillar of the whole Torah. ואהבת לרעך כמוך, זה כלל גדול בתורה. This is the essential issue, or at least the base of the Torah, that later on it will be built to higher and higher as a ladder towards the divine, towards Hashem. So the answer that I want to suggest, why was Moshe Rabbeinu chosen to be the leader of Israel? Because he did it, first of all, from the inside, from internal soul, from his internal soul, from his decision. The two main missions. The first one is to be responsible to the security, to the life of his brothers. And the second thing is not to be silent when you see that someone is evil, that someone behaves not according to the ethical way in life that we should behave according to them. And to say and to deliver the first message to the nation, Lama takre'echa, that later on, as I said, Rabbi Akiva defined it as the core of Judaism. And this is the first Torah that Hillel HaZaken taught the Gentile that wanted to convert. Ma shesanu alecha, what you hate that people are doing towards you, al taseh lechavercha. I see in this case the pillars of our Jewish life. I want to emphasize it's not the end. And Moshe Rabbeinu did many other things, and we have higher floors, and we're climbing higher. And later on, we'll have an entire Torah, and later on, Moshe Rabbeinu will build the Mishkan, and there'll be offering and sacrificing. All this is the right thing. But this is the beginning. These three ideas, or main ideas, that we should follow Moshe Rabbeinu, because this was the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu was chosen to be our leader, and he taught us through this story those three principles. One, things are in your responsibility. It's not NAMBI, not in my backyard. It's part of your life. And when you see that someone is suffering, when you see that someone is being beaten up, and when you see that people don't behave according to ethical and moral rules, it's your business. And you cannot say, no, I ignore this fact. Many evil things that are being done in our world is because people, good people, are silent. And they feel that, I don't want to get involved in it. And this is the first thing that we learn from Moshe Rabbeinu and from the fact that he was chosen. The second thing is that you cannot see someone that is in danger and not do anything. You should even sacrifice your life. Don't forget that Moshe Rabbeinu, and we read it later on, that it caused them a lot of danger. וישמע פרעה את הדבר הזה, ויבקש להרוג את משה. So it was very risky to do that. But you cannot see your brother suffering or under danger and not be willing to secure his life, to rescue him from the point that he fell into it, and to be able and be willing to fight for him. This is the second pillar of morality between brothers. And the third thing is Lama take re'ech. The first message that we got from Moshe Rabbeinu is don't cause damage to your friend. Don't hit him. Don't beat him. Don't fight with him. Not only because, it's brothers or whatever. It's because, like Chazal said, Hamirim yad al chavero, even someone that is not hitting, that is not causing real damage, but only is terrifying, only is warning, only merim yad, puts his hand up al chavero, nikra rasha. Because the first principle that we learned from Moshe Rabbeinu is that we are not able and we don't have any permission to do something bad to someone else. And more than that, when we see such a thing, because Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't the evil that Chas v'shalom wanted to hit his friend. Moshe Rabbeinu was the third guy that from the outside, he was an external issue in this story. But he taught us that you cannot be someone that is a part of our nation when you are a Rasha, and the Rasha, the offender in this issue, is someone that is causing damage to someone else. This is much before charity, before mercy, before all those issues that are very important. This is morality, ethics, and justice. So therefore, this Shabbat, when we start to read the last book of the Torah, and we'll read about all the journey that Moshe Rabbeinu did in those 40 years from this story to the parasha that we will read on this Shabbat, it's a good opportunity to commemorate what was in the beginning, why Moshe Rabbeinu, and to try to follow those three principles. It's our business. We rescue our brothers from someone that is causing damage and is hitting and beating them. And we will try to create a society where justice, ethical, and morality behavior will be the pillars of our religious custom and our religious commitments and our devote towards Hashem. Chodesh Tov and Shabbat Shalom to everybody.
That was really great. Thank you so much.